Hi guys, Technique Tuesday. What we're going to look at today is a core exercise focusing on anti-rotation. So if you remember back to previous discussions on core stability, we can break it down into different categories. So anti-extension, anti-flexion, anti-lateral flexion and anti-rotation. Now when it comes to running, yes, it's a sagittal plane exercise, i.e. sort of forward and backward movement, but we also need to resist forces from other planes of motion, one of those being the frontal plane. So we're trying to resist forces that are causing rotation, especially through our upper body as our arms drive forward and backwards, but also just generally from the ground. We're also trying to resist a little bit of lateral flexion as well. So this exercise helps address those, but a little bit more specific to running than sort of some of the other traditional core stability exercises that we looked at. And the reason being is because we're going to use what's called the triple extension as we engage our core to resist movement. And that triple extension is through extending the ankle, the knee and the hip, just like we do every time our foot hits the ground. We then extend through the ankle, the knee and the hip to push the leg behind us, which then propels us forward. And that's what we call that the triple extension. So this exercise kind of promotes that, as well as addressing that core stability and resisting that excessive motion at the spine. So all we need for this one is a kettlebell. You can use a dumbbell for this exercise as well, though it's just a little bit more awkward to hold. Alright, to start, we'll obviously keep it relatively light, but you will be able to go quite heavy on this exercise quite quickly once you've learnt the technique and addressed the movement. And obviously because we're looking at strength, remember it does need to be quite a challenging weight to get the benefit from it. So we're going to take the kettlebell, we're going to grab it by the horns, so the sides and handles, and we're going to have our feet about hip width apart. We're going to take the kettlebell down to one of our hips, and then we're going to slightly bend the knees forward but keeping the torso nice and upright, and then we're going to go into that triple extension by driving the hips forward and up, and that'll promote you to come up to your toes. As you do that, you're then going to lift the kettlebell up to the opposite shoulder. So you're going to dip and drive up to the opposite shoulder and back to the start. So as we're bringing the kettlebell up, obviously the weight is going to want to continue travelling in this direction, so we're going to have to engage through our obliques, through the core, through the glute, to minimise that rotation of this shoulder wanting to follow the kettlebell around. Equally, the weight's going to pull us over, so again we're trying to resist that lateral flexion towards the shoulder that we're bringing the kettlebell up to. So again, just bracing the core and then getting that power from the hips, like I said, that triple extension, which is crucial for general run gait anyway. So one more time. Bring it down to the hip, dip, drive with the legs, up to the opposite shoulder, and then obviously make sure we do both sides to get that balance. So you're trying to get as much movement from the hips rather than just lifting the kettlebell with the arms and shoulders, alright? You'll know if you've done it correctly, because as you extend through the hips, if you've done that right, the kettlebell should feel almost weightless as it comes across the body until we stabilise it at the opposite shoulder. If you're feeling the shoulders, the traps and other muscles around the upper body engaging from here as you're lifting it up, then you're not getting that extension through the hips, you're just using your arms to lift it, which isn't getting the benefit that we're trying to get. So really focus on that hip drive whilst then bracing that core to stop the kettlebell at the opposite shoulder.